The price of perfection. They say every woman wants to marry a billionaire. They don't tell you about the price. They don't tell you that you'll spend 3 years sculpting yourself into someone else's masterpiece, starving your body, silencing your laughter, killing every wild, messy, beautiful part of yourself, only to watch him fall in love with your sister. Your loud, imperfect, impossible sister. The one who kept everything you threw away. This is the story of Tiwa Badmus, a woman who used to be perfect. Until the night she found her husband in their guest bedroom with her sister and realized perfection was the worst thing she ever became. This is the story of how she lost everything and how losing everything saved her life. If you're ready for a story that will shatter you and rebuild you from the inside out, stay with me. And if you want more stories that make you feel, stories about love, betrayal, redemption, and the courage it takes to choose yourself, hit that subscribe button right now. Because this one's going to hurt, but I promise you it's worth every second. The first time Tiwa met Kolawole Badmus, she was wearing jeans and an Ankara crop top, her natural hair in a messy bun, laughing too loud at her friend's joke in the lobby of Eco Hotel. He walked past her without a second glance. 3 months later, when she saw him again at his cousin's wedding, this time in a fitted red gown, bone-straight Brazilian weave flowing down her back, makeup painted to perfection, he couldn't take his eyes off her. That should have told her everything. But Tiwa was 24, ambitious, and convinced that love was something you could build if you just tried hard enough. Kola was 31, the heir to Badmus Banking Group, educated at Oxford, groomed since birth to run an empire. He was beautiful in that terrifying way powerful men are: tall, dark-skinned, with the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers. Sharp jaw, intense eyes, a smile that felt like a reward when he finally gave it to you. "You're stunning," he said when he approached her at the reception. Not "you're beautiful," not "you have a lovely smile." Stunning, like she was a work of art he was appraising. She should have heard the difference. They dated for 8 months. In that time, Tiwa learned what it meant to be Kolawole Badmus's girlfriend. It meant private tables at the most exclusive restaurants in Lagos and Abuja. It meant designer bags she didn't ask for but learned to carry gracefully. It meant attending board meetings as his plus one, wearing pencil skirts and neutral lipstick, nodding politely while men 3 times her age discussed market projections. It meant her mother crying with joy because her daughter had arrived. It meant her father finally looking proud. It meant her younger sister Funk rolling her eyes and saying, "Tiwa, you're turning into a robot," and Tiwa laughing it off because what did Funk know about ambition, about strategy, about becoming the kind of woman a man like Kola could marry? The proposal came at his family estate in Ikoyi, a sprawling mansion that looked like something from a movie. His mother, Mrs. Adebimpe Badmus, watched from the veranda with a tight smile that never reached her eyes. Even in that moment, Tiwa knew she was being evaluated. And she knew she had passed. The wedding was the society event of the year, 300 guests, a dress that cost more than her parents' house. Tiwa's face graced the cover of Genevieve magazine, the new Mrs. Badmus, beauty, brains, and grace. Funk was her maid of honor. She wore the blush pink dress Tiwa had chosen for her, even though she'd complained it made her look like an oversized cupcake. She was 21 then, all curves and chaos, studying mass communication at UNILAG and dating a struggling musician their parents hated. "You sure about this?" Funk whispered while fixing Tiwa's veil, her dark eyes searching her sister's face. "Why wouldn't I be?" "Because you haven't laughed, really laughed, in 6 months." "I'm happy, Funk." "You're perfect," Funk corrected, her voice soft with something that sounded like sadness. "There's a difference." Tiwa kissed her sister's cheek and told her she worried too much. She walked down that aisle believing she had won. 3 years of marriage taught Tiwa what winning actually costs. "Let me paint you a picture of perfection." Tiwa woke up at 5:30 a.m. every morning. Yoga for 45 minutes because Cola's mother had mentioned once that she was filling out. Green smoothie, no sugar. Shower, skincare routine, 12 steps, all luxury brands. Hair appointment twice a week because natural hair was unprofessional for Mrs. Badmus. Makeup always, even at home, especially at home. Breakfast with Cola at 7:00 a.m. sharp. Egg white omelette, wheat toast, black coffee. Conversation about his day, his meetings, his concerns. Tiwa's job as a marketing executive at a pharmaceutical company was cute, as Cola often said, but they both understood it wasn't the priority. The priority was being Mrs. Collowell Badmus. That meant hosting dinner parties for his business associates with 6-course meals and intelligent but not threatening conversation. Attending charity galas in gowns that photographed well. Sitting on the boards of 2 NGOs she barely had time for. Posting perfectly curated Instagram photos of their blessed life. Him kissing her forehead, her laughing at something off camera, their coordinated outfits at Sunday service. It meant sex on Tuesday and Saturday nights, unless he was too tired. Always in the same position. Always polite. It meant separate bathrooms because he needed his space. It meant him working until midnight most nights. It meant loneliness that felt like drowning in silk sheets. But it also meant security, status, her parents' pride, her mother's friends calling to gush about her daughter's blessed marriage. So Tiwa kept sculpting herself smaller, quieter, more perfect. And she told herself she was happy. Funk visited often in those first 3 years, too often, according to Cola. "Your sister is, a lot," he said one evening after Funk had left their Banana Island home. She'd come over in ripped jeans and a vibrant yellow off-shoulder top, her natural afro wild and free, laughing loudly about some disaster at her new job at a radio station. "She's just expressive," Tiwa defended, even as she felt a strange pang of something she couldn't name. "She's unrefined," Cola said, loosening his tie as he poured himself a glass of cognac. "All that noise, it's exhausting." "I used to be like that," Tiwa thought, watching him from across their expansive living room. "You used to like that I wasn't like that anymore." "She's my sister," Tiwa said quietly. "Of course I'm not saying don't see her, I'm just saying, maybe encourage her to mature a bit. She's 24 now, still dressing like a student, dating that nobody musician." They broke up. Good, maybe now she'll find someone serious, someone who can actually provide for her. He kissed Tiwa's forehead, that signature gesture that looked so loving in photographs, and went to his study. Tiwa stood in their massive living room, all marble and gold accents and fresh flowers arranged by their housekeeper, and felt the walls closing in. If this story is hitting different, if you're feeling something stir in your chest right now, do me a favor, subscribe to this channel, because I share stories like this every week. Stories about real love, real pain, and real women finding their way back to themselves. Hit that button, you won't regret it. It started so innocently. Cola suggested Funk join them for their annual charity gala. It might be good for her, he said one morning over breakfast, not looking up from his iPad. Show her what real success looks like, maybe inspire her to aim higher. Tiwa thought it was kind. She actually thought it was kind. Funk showed up to their house the day before the event for her transformation. That's what Cola's mother called it when she sent over her personal stylist. "Absolutely not," Funk said when she saw the conservative navy gown they'd selected. "I'll look like I'm going to a funeral." "It's elegant," Tiwa insisted, holding up the dress. "It's boring." Funk held up a different dress from the selection, a fitted gold number with a daring neckline. "This one, this is fire." "It's too much." "Too much what?" "Too much fabric, because there's plenty of fabric, Tiwa." "Too much attention." Funk stared at her sister, and something shifted in her expression. Pity maybe, or recognition of something lost. When did you become afraid of attention? I'm not afraid, I'm appropriate. The word hung in the air between them like a wall. Okay, Funk said softly, her usual fire dimming. The navy one is fine. But the next night she wore the gold. And Kola couldn't stop looking at her. Tiwa noticed it immediately, the way his eyes tracked Funk across the ballroom at the gala, the way he laughed at her jokes, really laughed, the sound rusty like he'd forgotten how, like something locked inside him was suddenly free. Funk was Funk, loud and warm and magnetic. She told inappropriate stories that had the wives clutching their pearls and the husbands grinning despite themselves. She asked Kola's business partners questions that were too direct, too honest, and somehow they loved her for it. Your sister is quite something, Mrs. Badmus said to Tiwa, her tone glacial as they watched Funk hold court near the champagne fountain. She's vibrant, Tiwa managed, her fingers tightening around her wine glass. That's one word for it. Tiwa watched Kola lean down to whisper something to Funk. Her sister threw her head back and laughed, her hand landing on his arm. The gesture was innocent, casual. But Kola's face. His face looked alive in a way Tiwa hadn't seen in years. Her stomach twisted into knots. Don't be ridiculous, she told herself. She's your sister, he's your husband. But something had shifted. Something fundamental had cracked in the carefully constructed architecture of her perfect life. That night, Kola made love to her differently, urgently, almost desperately. His hands moved with a passion that had been absent for months, his breathing ragged against her neck. But his eyes were closed the whole time. And Tiwa wondered, God help her, she wondered, who he was seeing behind those closed lids. Funk started coming around more after that night. Kola invited me, she'd say with a shrug when Tiwa expressed surprise at seeing her car in the driveway. Said I should use the pool since my apartment doesn't have one. Kola said I should ask you about that marketing campaign. He thinks I should transition from radio to corporate. Kola mentioned you guys were having people over, told me to come through. Kola. His name was always on her sister's lips now, casual and comfortable. Tiwa told herself she was being paranoid. This was her sister, her husband. She was being a bad wife for even thinking. But then she'd catch moments that made her breath stop. His hand lingering on Funk's shoulder when he greeted her, fingers curling just slightly into the fabric of her shirt. The way he asked about Funk's day with genuine interest, leaning forward, phone forgotten, while he scrolled through emails when Tiwa talked. The inside jokes that developed between them, references Tiwa didn't understand, laughter over things she wasn't part of. You're imagining things, her best friend Amara said when Tiwa finally confessed her fears over lunch at a restaurant in Victoria Island. Kola worships you, you're perfect for him. Perfect. That word again. It used to feel like a compliment, now it felt like a cage. Maybe that's the problem, Tiwa whispered, staring at her untouched salad. Amara frowned. What do you mean? Maybe perfect isn't what he wants anymore. Girl, you're stressed, you're seeing things that aren't there. Kola is a good man, he would never. But Amara's voice faded as Tiwa's phone buzzed, with a text from her housekeeper. Madam, Ogre and your sister are in the pool. Should I prepare lunch for 3? It was 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Kola should have been at the bank. Funk should have been at the radio station. Tiwa's hands started shaking. I have to go, she said, standing abruptly. Tiwa. But she was already walking out, her perfect heels clicking against the marble floor, her perfect life beginning to crack at the seams. Tiwa didn't go straight home. She sat in her car in the restaurant parking lot for 20 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel, breathing like she'd run a marathon. Lagos traffic hummed around her, okadas weaving between cars, street vendors calling out their wares, the organized chaos of a city that never stopped moving. Her mind raced with possibilities, each one worse than the last. Maybe they're just swimming, maybe Cola left work early, maybe Funk's day off coincided with his break, maybe you're being crazy, maybe you're being paranoid, maybe perfect wives don't spy on their husbands, maybe. She called Cola. He answered on the third ring, slightly breathless. Baby, everything okay? Baby, he called her baby, that was good, right? Just checking on you, she said, her voice steady despite the storm in her chest. How's your day? Busy, back-to-back meetings, you know how it is. In the background, Tiwa heard it, faint but unmistakable. Funk's laughter. Is someone with you? Tiwa asked. A pause, just half a second too long. Just stepped out of a meeting, people milling around, you know how the office is. His voice was smooth, practiced. Listen, I have to jump into another call. See you tonight. Yeah, tonight. He hung up. Tiwa sat there, staring at her phone, feeling something inside her crystallize into certainty. He had lied to her. Her husband, who prided himself on integrity, who lectured his employees about honesty, who built an empire on his word, had looked her in the eye through the phone and lied. She drove home. The Badmus estate in Banana Island was a monument to success. 8 bedrooms, infinity pool, manicured gardens, security that would make a president envious. Tiwa had fallen in love with this house once, seeing it as proof that she'd made it, that the girl from a modest home in Surula had arrived. Now, as she parked her white Range Rover in the circular driveway, it felt like a mausoleum. Beautiful, cold, empty. She could hear them before she saw them. Laughter echoed from the back of the house, mixing with the sound of splashing water. Not the guilty, hushed tones of people hiding something. No, this was comfortable laughter. Easy, free. Tiwa slipped off her heels and walked barefoot through her own house, silent as a ghost. The pool area was stunning, all glass and chrome, with a view of the Lagos lagoon glittering in the afternoon sun. Cola had designed it himself, proud of the way the water seemed to blend with the horizon. And there, in that perfect infinity pool, was her husband. With her sister. They weren't kissing, they weren't even touching. Somehow that made it worse. Cola floated on his back, relaxed in a way Tiwa never saw him anymore. His usually tense shoulders were loose, his face tilted toward the sun. Funk sat on the pool's edge, her legs dangling in the water, wearing a bright orange bikini that Tiwa would never have been allowed to wear. Too flashy, Cola's mother would say, not befitting Mrs. Badmus. And then the producer said my voice was too authentic for corporate radio, Funk was saying, air quotes around the words. Like, what does that even mean? Too authentic, since when is that a bad thing? Cola laughed, a deep, genuine sound that Tiwa realized she hadn't heard in months, maybe years. It means you're real, he said, swimming over to where she sat. In a world of fake people playing fake roles, you're aggressively, unapologetically real. It's terrifying to people who have built their lives on pretense. Is that what you think, that most people are pretending? I know they are, his voice went quiet. Hell, I'm the worst of them. What are you pretending to be? A long pause, Tiwa held her breath, hidden behind the glass doors. Happy, Cola said finally, satisfied, like I have everything I ever wanted. But you do, Funk said. Look at this place, look at your life, you have everything. Do I? The question hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Funk's voice softened, Cola. You know what I realized? He wasn't looking at her, staring instead at the water. I spent so long building the perfect life, perfect house, perfect job, perfect wife, that I forgot to ask if it was the life I actually wanted, or if I was just performing, playing the role everyone expected. Funk was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was careful, Tiwa is amazing. Tiwa is perfect, Cola corrected. There's a difference. What's the difference? Perfect means there's nothing left to discover, nothing unexpected, no mess, no chaos, no life. He finally looked up at Funk, and even from her hiding spot, Tiwa could see the intensity in his gaze. You know what you are, Funk. A mess, she joked weakly. Alive, you're so completely, messily, beautifully alive. And when I'm around you, I remember what that feels like. Tiwa's hand flew to her mouth, stifling the sound, threatening to escape. Funk stood abruptly, water dripping from her legs. I should go. Why? Because this, she gestured between them, this is dangerous. Nothing's happened. Yet, Funk grabbed her towel. Nothing's happened yet, but Cola, you're looking at me the way you should be looking at my sister, and her voice cracked. I need to leave before I do something we'll both regret. She turned to walk away. But Cola caught her wrist. What if I don't want to regret it? The world stopped. Tiwa watched her sister, her baby sister, the girl she'd braided hair for, the teenager she'd covered for when she snuck out, the woman she loved more than almost anyone, stare at her husband. She's my sister, Funk whispered. I know. She loves you. I know. Then let me go. But he didn't. And Funk didn't pull away. They stood there, frozen in a moment that felt like a betrayal even though nothing had happened, the space between them crackling with possibility and danger. Finally, Funk jerked her hand free. I can't do this, she said, and fled, grabbing her clothes, not even bothering to change, just running through the house like the devil himself was chasing her. She passed within 3 feet of where Tiwa stood, but she was crying too hard to notice. The front door slammed. An engine started. Tires squealed. And Tiwa stood in her perfect house, watching her husband float in their perfect pool, his face tilted toward the sun, looking more at peace than he ever did in her arms. If your heart is pounding right now, if you're feeling that tight knot of anticipation and dread in your chest, then you understand what Tiwa felt in that moment. And if you want to find out what happens next, if you need to know how this story unfolds, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because part 2 is about to take you on a journey you won't forget. Don't miss it. Tiwa didn't confront him that night. Or the next night. Or the night after that. Instead, she watched, she observed. She became a detective in her own life, gathering evidence of her worst fears. She noticed how Cola's phone was suddenly always face down, how he smiled at messages he didn't share, how he found reasons to come home late, leave early, be anywhere but alone with her. She noticed how Funk stopped visiting, stopped calling, how her sister's texts became sparse, formal, wrong. Can't make dinner this weekend, work stuff. Happy birthday, sorry I can't celebrate in person. Tell Mom I'll call her later. The sister who used to video call her 3 times a day had become a stranger, and Tiwa knew, God, she knew, it was guilt that made Funk disappear. Guilt meant something to feel guilty about. 2 weeks after the pool incident, Tiwa did something she'd never done before. She went through Cola's phone. He was in the shower, singing off-key like he used to do in the early days of their relationship, before perfection became mandatory. Tiwa sat on their king-size bed, perfectly made by their housekeeper, as always, and unlocked his phone. She knew his password. He'd never bothered to hide it from her because perfect wives were trustworthy. Perfect wives didn't snoop. But Tiwa was beginning to realize she didn't want to be perfect anymore. The messages were all there, weeks of them, hundreds of them. Cola can't stop thinking about yesterday. Funk, we can't do this. Cola, I know, but if I could choose. Funk, please don't finish that sentence. Cola, why not? Funk, because if you say it out loud, it becomes real. And if it becomes real, I become the woman who betrayed her sister. I can't be that woman, Cola. I won't. Cola, you're the only person who sees me. The real me. Do you know how rare that is? Funk, then you need to fix things with Tiwa. Really fix them. Not just exist in the same house like polite strangers. Cola, how do I fix something I don't think I ever wanted in the first place? Tiwa's hands shook so badly, she nearly dropped the phone. She scrolled further. Funk, I'm not coming to the house anymore. Cola, Funk. Funk, I mean it. This is wrong. We're wrong. And I love my sister too much to do this to her. Cola, then meet me somewhere else. Funk, Cola, stop. Cola, I need to see you. Funk, why? Cola, because when I'm with you, I can breathe. When I'm with her, I'm suffocating in a life I built for everyone else's approval. You make me feel like a man instead of a brand. Funk, that's not fair to either of us. Cola, I know, but it's true. 3 days of radio silence after that exchange. Then. Funk, Sheraton, room 412, Tuesday, 3 p.m. Funk, this is the last time. I mean it. We say goodbye properly and then we never speak about this again. Cola, okay. Cola, thank you. Tiwa looked at the date on that message. Tuesday. Today was Tuesday. It was 2:47 p.m. The shower was still running, Cola was still singing, oblivious. Tiwa stood up slowly, her mind eerily calm. She walked to her closet, her perfectly organized closet with color-coded sections and matching hangers, and pulled out jeans. Real jeans, not designer ones, a simple white t-shirt, sneakers. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. When had she last worn jeans? When had she last left the house without full makeup, without the armor of perfection? The shower stopped. Tiwa grabbed her car keys and her purse. Baby, Cola called from the bathroom. That's you. Going out, she called back, her voice cheerful. Perfect. Back later. She didn't wait for his response. Lagos traffic was a nightmare, as always. Tiwa wove through the chaos of Faloma roundabout, past street vendors selling everything from phone chargers to plantain chips, past the organized madness that was Victoria Island at rush hour. Her mind was blank, empty. She wasn't thinking, wasn't planning, just driving on autopilot toward the Sheraton Hotel. She arrived at 3:12 p.m. Parked in the visitor section. Walked through the lobby like she belonged there, because Mrs. Collowell Badmus belonged everywhere, didn't she? The staff nodded respectfully. No one questioned her. The elevator ride to the 4th floor felt like descending into a dream. Or a nightmare. The line was blurry now. Room 412. Tiwa stood in front of the door, her hand raised to knock, and finally, allowed herself to feel. Rage, grief, betrayal, relief. Yes, relief, because certainty, even terrible certainty, was better than the slow poison of doubt. She knocked. Footsteps approached from inside. The door opened. Funk stood there wearing a hotel robe, her hair still wet from a shower. Her face went white when she saw who it was. Tiwa. Tiwa pushed past her sister into the room. It was a nice suite. King-size bed, city view, champagne chilling in a bucket. Very romantic, very cliché. And there, stepping out of the bathroom with a towel around his waist, was her husband. Cola froze when he saw her. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The air conditioning hummed. Lagos traffic honked and bustled 4 floors below. Somewhere down the hall, a door slammed. Well, Tiwa said finally, her voice eerily calm, I guess we're all here now. Funk started crying immediately. Tiwa, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Don't, Tiwa held up a hand. Don't apologize yet. I need to understand something first. She turned to her husband. He'd gone pale beneath his dark skin, his jaw clenched tight. How long? She asked. Tiwa, he started. How long? We haven't, he swallowed hard. Nothing physical has happened. Oh well, that makes it so much better. The calm was cracking now, her voice rising. You've only emotionally betrayed me with my own sister. You've only fallen in love with her behind my back. You've only been lying to me for weeks, meeting her in hotel rooms, telling her things you never told me. But thank God you haven't fucked her yet. Thank God for that. Tiwa, please, Funk sobbed. You don't get to talk, Tiwa whirled on her sister. You don't get to cry like you're the victim here. You're the one who, her voice broke. You're supposed to be my sister, my sister. We shared a room for 18 years. I taught you how to do your makeup. I helped you with your first heartbreak. I was your maid of honor at. She stopped, laughed bitterly. No, wait, you were my maid of honor. At my wedding, to him. And you stood up there and promised to support us, and now you're. She couldn't finish. The words dissolved into a sound that was half sob, half scream. Kola moved toward her. Don't touch me, she hissed, backing away. Don't you dare touch me. Let me explain. Explain what? That you never loved me. That our entire marriage was a performance. That you married me because I looked good on paper but fell for her because she's real. The accuracy of her words hit him like a slap. She could see it in his face. Oh my God, Tiwa whispered. That's actually it, isn't it? I'm the trophy wife, and she's the one you actually want. It's not that simple. It is that simple, she was shouting now, tears streaming down her face, all the perfection finally shattered. I killed myself trying to be perfect for you. I gave up everything, my hair, my body, my personality, my joy, trying to be the woman you wanted. And it still wasn't enough because you didn't want perfect. You wanted, she looked at Funk, still crying in the corner. You wanted her. Tiwa, I love you, Kola said desperately. No, you don't. You love the idea of me. You love what I represent. But you don't love me because you don't even know who I am anymore. Hell, I don't even know who I am anymore. She sank onto the hotel bed, suddenly exhausted. When did it start? She asked quietly, the truth this time. Kola and Funk exchanged a glance. The gala, Funk whispered. That night something shifted. The gala was 2 months ago. Nothing happened, Funk started. I don't care about what happened physically, Tiwa screamed. I care about what happened here. She pointed to her chest, to her heart. You fell in love with my husband, and you, she turned to Kola. You fell in love with my sister, and you both kept it from me while I served you tea and smiled for Instagram photos and hosted your business dinners like a good little perfect wife. What do you want me to say? Kola's voice was raw. That I'm sorry. I am, that I never meant to hurt you. I didn't, that I fought this with everything I had. I did, but Tiwa, we haven't been really married in years. We've been performing marriage, and I'm tired of performing. The honesty of it was more devastating than any lie could have been. So what now? Tiwa asked. You two run off together. Live happily ever after while I'm the pathetic abandoned wife everyone pities at parties. I don't want that, Funk said quickly. I never wanted any of this. I tried to stay away. But you couldn't, Tiwa finished, because you love him. Funk's silence was answer enough. Tiwa stood up slowly, straightened her shirt, wiped her eyes. I want a divorce, she said. Kola looked like she'd shot him. Tiwa. I want a divorce, she repeated, her voice stronger now. I want my freedom. I want my life back, the one I had before I tried to become perfect for you. And you too, she looked at them both. You can have each other, if that's what you want, because I am done shrinking myself to fit into someone else's vision of who I should be. She walked to the door, then paused. Funk. Her sister looked up, mascara running down her face. I hope he's worth it. I hope loving him is worth losing me, because you didn't just betray my trust. You broke my heart in a way no man ever could. Sisters are supposed to be forever, but I guess nothing's forever, is it? Tiwa, please. Funk reached for her. Tiwa stepped back. Don't call me, don't text me, don't show up at mom and dad's when I'm there. You wanted him, you've got him, but you don't get to have both. You don't get to have him and me. She left, walked out of that hotel room, down the corridor, into the elevator, through the lobby, and into the parking lot where her Range Rover waited. Only when she was safely inside with the doors locked did she completely fall apart. Tiwa cried like she hadn't cried in years. She cried for the girl she used to be before she became perfect. She cried for the marriage that was never real. She cried for the sister she'd lost. And then, when the tears finally stopped, she looked at herself in the rearview mirror. Her makeup was ruined, her eyes were swollen, her carefully straightened hair was frizzing in Lagos humidity. She looked absolutely terrible. She looked real. For the first time in 3 years, Tiwa looked at. Continue. It's 9:11 p.m. Herself, and saw a real person instead of a carefully curated image. And somewhere in the wreckage of her perfect life, something new began to grow. If you're feeling this story in your soul right now, if you're thinking about your own journey with perfection and authenticity, then you need to subscribe. Hit that button right now, because this story is far from over, and what comes next, the healing, the transformation, the rise, is going to change everything. Don't miss part 3. Tiwa didn't go home that night. She couldn't face that perfect house, that perfect bedroom, the perfect life that had imploded in a Sheraton hotel suite. Instead, she drove to the only place that still felt real, her parents' house in Surulere. The modest 3-bedroom bungalow where she'd grown up suddenly felt like a sanctuary. Her mother, blessing, opened the door and immediately knew something was catastrophically wrong. Mothers always know. Tiwa, what happened? Where is Kola? Why are you crying? Come inside, come. Her father, Chief Ademi, emerged from the living room, newspaper in hand. His face creased with concern when he saw his daughter's state. Daddy, Tiwa whispered, and then she collapsed into his arms like she was 8 years old again. They didn't ask questions at first. Her mother made her favorite soup, egusi with stockfish, the way she used to make it before Tiwa's diet became. All quinoa and kale. Her father sat beside her, his presence solid and comforting. Finally, when she'd eaten and cried and eaten some more, Tiwa told them everything. The performance of perfection, the emotional distance, the hotel room, the betrayal. Her mother listened with her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Her father's jaw clenched tighter with every word. When she finished, silence filled the small living room. The sound of Lagos evening filtered through the windows, neighbors chatting, children playing, life continuing despite personal apocalypses. I should have seen it, her mother said finally. At your wedding, when Funk said you hadn't laughed in months, I should have asked more questions. It's not your fault, Mama. But as your mother, I pushed you toward this marriage. I was so proud that my daughter was marrying a badmus. I boasted to everyone. I didn't ask if you were happy. I just asked if you were provided for. She wiped her eyes. I failed you. You didn't fail me. I failed myself. I chose perfection over happiness. I chose status over authenticity, and I lost myself in the process. Chief Ademi finally spoke, his voice heavy with emotion. And Funk, where is she now? Still with him, I suppose. Tiwa's voice was hollow. I told her not to contact me. That girl, her mother spat, anger replacing tears. After everything you did for her, everything you sacrificed, how could she? She fell in love, Mama, it happens. Not with your sister's husband, it doesn't. That's not love, that's betrayal, that's wickedness. Tiwa wanted to argue, but she was too tired. Too broken. I need to stay here for a while, she said quietly, just until I figure out what comes next. Stay as long as you need, her father said, This is your home. It will always be your home. That night, Tiwa slept in her childhood bedroom. Her mother had kept it exactly the same. Faded posters of Tu Baba and Beyonce on the walls, books from university stacked on shelves, a narrow single bed that felt nothing like the California king she'd grown accustomed to. But she slept better than she had in months. The divorce proceedings began immediately. Cola's lawyers tried to make it complicated. They wanted mediation. They wanted counseling. They wanted to drag it out. Probably hoping Tiwa would change her mind. Tiwa hired the most cutthroat divorce attorney in Lagos, a woman named Folake Ademola, who had a reputation for destroying cheating husbands in court. "I don't want his money," Tiwa told Folake at their first meeting in a gleaming office in Ikoyi. "I just want out." Folake, a sharp-faced woman in her 50s with silver locks and no patience for nonsense, raised an eyebrow. "Mrs. Badmus, you were married for 3 years. In that time you gave up career advancement to support his image. You hosted countless business dinners that helped him close deals. You sat on charity boards that enhanced his reputation. Under Nigerian law, you're entitled to." "I don't care what I'm entitled to. I don't want to spend the next year fighting over property and investments. I want my freedom. Now." Folake studied her carefully. "Most women in your position would take him for everything." "I'm not most women, and I don't want his guilt money. I want to rebuild my life on my own terms." Admirable, potentially stupid, but admirable. Folake leaned back in her chair. "What about the sister?" Tiwa's jaw tightened. "What about her?" "She's going to be a factor in these proceedings. If there's evidence of adultery." "There isn't. They hadn't slept together yet." Yet being the operative word, emotional affairs still count in court, we could argue. "No," Tiwa said firmly. "I want this clean. No mudslinging, no public scandal. I don't want to destroy them. I just want to be free of them." Folake sighed. "You're making my job very difficult." "Good, I've spent 3 years making everything easy. It's time for difficult." The divorce was finalized in record time, 6 weeks. Cola didn't contest it. He signed everything she asked him to sign, took the bare minimum for herself, her car, her personal savings, and a lump sum settlement that was generous but not excessive. The headlines were brutal. BADM US banking air divorces after 3 years. Society wedding ends in split. What went wrong in paradise? The blogs speculated wildly. Some blamed Tiwa for not giving him children fast enough. Some blamed Cola's demanding career. Some hinted at affairs without naming names. None of them knew the truth. And Tiwa intended to keep it that way. The worst part wasn't the divorce or the gossip, or even the betrayal. The worst part was losing Funk. Their mother tried to mediate, of course. She invited both daughters to the house, hoping they could talk, reconcile, heal. Tiwa refused to come if Funk was there. Funk came anyway, desperate to explain, to apologize, to salvage something. "Your sister is outside," her mother said one afternoon, 2 months after the hotel room confrontation. "She's been sitting in her car for an hour. She won't leave until you talk to her." Tiwa was in the kitchen, learning to cook again. Really cook, not just supervising a chef, but actually standing over a stove, making jollof rice from scratch. Her hands were stained with tomato paste, and she'd never felt more alive. "Then she'll be sitting there for a very long time," Tiwa said. "Tiwa, she's your sister." "She was my sister. Now she's just the woman who's sleeping with my ex-husband." Her mother flinched. "Don't say it like that." "Why not? It's true, isn't it? The divorce is final. I'm sure they're together now, living out their great love story while I'm here making rice and trying to remember who I was before I became Mrs. Badmus." "You need to forgive her." "Why?" Tiwa turned to face her mother, wooden spoon in hand. "Why do I need to forgive her? Because she's family, because that's what good Christian girls do. I'm tired of doing what I'm supposed to do, Mama. I'm tired of being good and perfect and understanding. She betrayed me in the worst possible way, and I'm allowed to be angry about that. Anger will eat you alive, child. Maybe, but it's my anger to feel, and right now, it's the only thing keeping me standing. Her mother sighed deeply. I'll tell her to go. Thank you. But as her mother left the kitchen, Tiwa's hands started shaking. She set down the spoon and gripped the counter, breathing hard. Because the truth was, she missed Funk desperately. She missed her sister's laugh, her terrible jokes, her voice rambling about some drama at work. She missed having someone who knew her, really knew her before perfection, before cola, before everything fell apart. But missing someone and trusting them again were two different things. And Tiwa didn't know if she'd ever trust Funk again. 3 months after the divorce, Tiwa did something radical. She cut off all her hair. Not just trimmed it, not just shortened it. She walked into a salon in Serula and told the stylist to shave it all off. Are you sure, Ma? The stylist asked, scissors poised. This hair is so beautiful, you sure you want to? I'm sure. The weave came off first, all that expensive Brazilian hair that Cola had preferred. Then her relaxed hair underneath, grown long to please others. Snip, snip, snip. With each cut, Tiwa felt lighter. When it was done, she had a beautiful low-cut natural fade. Her face, her actual face, not hidden behind a curtain of hair, stared back at her from the mirror. She looked different, younger, stronger. She looked like herself. Her phone buzzed with a text from Amara. Girl, I saw your Instagram post. The hair, you look amazing. Lunch tomorrow. Tiwa had started posting again. Not curated perfection, but real life. Her messy kitchen experiments. Her makeup-free morning runs. Her books and thoughts and slowly healing heart. Her follower count had actually gone up. Apparently, people responded to authenticity more than perfection. Who knew? This is the moment in the story where everything shifts, where pain becomes power, where breaking becomes breakthrough. If you're invested in Tiwa's journey, if you're rooting for her comeback, then subscribe right now. Because what happens next will remind you that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming so authentically, powerfully yourself that the people who lost you realize exactly what they gave up. Hit that button. Part 4 is coming. 6 months after the divorce, Tiwa got a job offer. Not just any job, the vice president of marketing position at TechPoint Africa, one of Nigeria's fastest-growing tech companies. The salary was double what she'd made before. The role was challenging, creative, everything she'd dreamed of before she'd become too busy being perfect. We've been following your social media, the CEO, a brilliant woman named Chioma Okonkwo, said during the final interview. Your authenticity is exactly what our brand needs. We don't want polished corporate speak. We want real connection. We want you. Tiwa accepted on the spot. Her first day at TechPoint felt like stepping into a different universe. The office was open-plan, colorful, full of young, brilliant people who dressed casually and spoke passionately about innovation. No one cared that she was wearing jeans. No one judged her natural hair. No one whispered about her divorce. She was just Tiwa, marketing VP, brilliant, capable, free. Her assistant, a young man named Tund, brought her coffee on her first morning and said, Ma, just so you know, we're all really excited you're here. Your rebranding journey was incredible to watch. You're kind of a legend. A legend, Tiwa laughed. For what? Getting divorced? No, Ma, for choosing yourself. For showing people that you can lose everything and still become more. That's powerful. Tiwa felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you, Tund. Also, your jollof rice videos are fire. My girlfriend makes me watch them every week. She laughed, a real, full-belly laugh that felt like sunlight. Meanwhile, Cola and Funk's relationship was complicated. Tiwa heard about it through the Lagos grapevine, which was more efficient than any news outlet. friends of friends, mutual acquaintances, Instagram posts analyzed like ancient texts. Apparently, the reality of their relationship was very different from the fantasy. Cola's family had frozen them both out. Mrs. Badmus refused to speak to her son, appalled that he'd destroyed a perfectly good marriage for that loud, inappropriate girl. The society circles that once welcomed Funk as Tiwa's sister now shunned her as the homewrecker. The same traits Cola had found refreshing when Funk was forbidden became exhausting when she was his actual girlfriend. Her loudness wasn't charming anymore, it was embarrassing at business dinners. Her spontaneity wasn't exciting, it was inconvenient when he had scheduled meetings. Her authenticity wasn't freeing, it was uncomfortable when she asked him difficult questions about his feelings. And Funk, for her part, was drowning in guilt. She'd sacrificed her relationship with her sister, her parents' trust, and her own self-respect for a man who, it turned out, wasn't so different from the person he'd been with Tiwa. He'd just been on his best behavior during the affair, showing her the version of himself he wished he could be. But relationships built on betrayal have shaky foundations. Tiwa knew all of this, but not because she was stalking them. She simply existed in Lagos, and Lagos talked. She felt nothing, not satisfaction at their struggles, not vindication, just a distant, detached acknowledgement that karma was real. She'd moved on. 8 months after the divorce, Tiwa went on her first date. His name was Emeka, a software engineer at a partner company, tall and dark with kind eyes and an easy smile. He'd asked her out after a joint marketing meeting, and she'd surprised herself by saying yes. They went to a casual spot in Lekki, none of the stuffy fine dining restaurants Cola had preferred, just good food, good music, and conversation that flowed like water. So, Emeka said over plates of suya and Chapman, I have to ask, are you really ready to date? Because your Instagram is giving very much healing journey, don't touch me energy. Tiwa nearly choked on her drink, you follow my Instagram. Everyone follows your Instagram, you're kind of a big deal. I'm really not. You are though, you turned your pain into power, that's rare, most people just stay bitter. He paused, are you bitter? She thought about it, I was, for a long time I was so angry I could barely breathe, but anger is exhausting, and I realized being bitter was just another way of letting them control my life, so I chose something else. What did you choose? Joy, messy, imperfect, complicated joy. Emeka smiled, I like that. The date was nice, not earth-shattering, not a fairy tale, just two people enjoying each other's company without performing or pretending. At the end of the night, Emeka walked her to her car. Can I see you again? He asked. Maybe, Tiwa said honestly. I'm still figuring out who I am outside of my last relationship. I don't know if I'm ready for something serious. Who said anything about serious? I'm talking about suya and good conversation. Maybe catch a movie, see where it goes without forcing it. No pressure. No pressure, just presence, showing up as we are. Tiwa considered, okay, I can do that. He didn't try to kiss her, just squeezed her hand and said good night. As she drove home to her new apartment in Yaba, modest but hers, full of color and plants and personality, Tiwa felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. 1 year after the divorce, Tiwa's parents threw her a birthday party. Not the elaborate affairs she was used to as Mrs. Badmus, no 5-tier cakes or society photographers or designer gowns. Just family and real friends gathered in their Serula backyard, with jollof rice and fried plantain and 2 sweet Chapman and music playing from someone's Bluetooth speaker. Tiwa wore a simple Ankara dress and her natural hair, now grown into a beautiful short afro. She'd gained back the weight she'd lost trying to stay model thin, and her body felt strong and healthy in hers. She was laughing with Amara when she saw her. Funk, standing at the gate looking smaller somehow, uncertain. Their mother must have invited her. For a long moment, the sisters just stared at each other across the crowded yard. A year of silence stretched between them like an ocean. Funk looked different too, quieter, like something fundamental had broken in her and healed wrong. Tiwa excused herself from Amara and walked over. "Hi," Funk said softly. "Hi. Happy birthday." "Thank you." Another painful silence. "I know you don't want to talk to me," Funk finally said. "I know you probably hate me, but Mama said I could come and I just needed to see you, to tell you I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry for what I did, for who I became, for betraying you." Tiwa listened without interrupting. "It's over," Funk continued. "Me and Kola, it ended 3 months ago. It turns out," her laugh was bitter, "it turns out that relationships built on lies don't actually work. Who knew?" She wiped her eyes. "I lost you for nothing. I destroyed our relationship, hurt you in the worst possible way, and for what? A man who was never really mine to begin with. A man who was in love with the idea of freedom more than he was in love with me." "I'm sorry it didn't work out," Tiwa said, and meant it. Funk looked shocked. "You are?" "I'm not happy you're in pain, Funk. I never wanted that. I just wanted you to understand how much you hurt me." "I do, God Tiwa, I do. I understand it now. The guilt, it's been eating me alive. I can barely sleep. I can't look at myself in the mirror without hating what I see. I lost my sister, my best friend, the person who knew me better than anyone, and I don't know how to live without you." Tears streamed down Funk's face, and for the first time in a year, Tiwa felt her anger crack. Because this was Funk, her baby sister, the girl she'd braided hair for, covered for, loved unconditionally. But love and trust were different things. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet," Tiwa said honestly. "The hurt is still too fresh, the betrayal too deep." "I understand. But maybe," Tiwa took a breath, "maybe someday, not now, not soon, but someday when I'm ready we can try to build something new. Not what we had before because that's gone, but something different, something real." Funk nodded, crying too hard to speak. "I need time, Funk, real time, space to heal without you in it." "Okay, whatever you need, I'll wait forever if that's what it takes." Tiwa touched her sister's arm briefly, the first physical contact they'd had in a year. "Go home, take care of yourself, and when you're ready, when you've really done the work to understand why you made the choices you made, we'll talk." "Thank you," Funk whispered. "Thank you for not hating me. I could never hate you, but I can't trust you yet either, and I won't pretend otherwise just to make things comfortable." Funk nodded and left, shoulders shaking with sobs. Tiwa watched her go, feeling a strange mixture of grief and relief. Then she turned back to her party, where her mother was cutting the cake and her father was arguing good-naturedly with Uncle Tund about politics, and Amara was laughing at something Emeka said. Her imperfect, chaotic, beautiful life. And for the first time in years, Tiwa felt complete. Not because she had everything, but because she finally had herself. 18 months later, Tiwa stood on the stage at the annual Women in Tech conference in Abuja, addressing a crowd of over 2,000 women. "The truth is," she said into the microphone, her voice steady and strong, "I used to think success meant perfection. I thought love meant sacrificing who you were for who someone else needed you to be. I thought happiness was something you performed rather than something you felt." She paused, looking out at all those faces, young and old, hopeful and hurting, ambitious and afraid. "I was wrong about all of it." She told them her story, not the sanitized version, the real one, the painful one about becoming so perfect she disappeared, about betrayal and divorce and having to rebuild from ruins. "The price of perfection," she concluded, "is yourself, your joy, your authenticity, your soul, and I'm here to tell you you're not worth the cost. Nothing is worth losing yourself." The applause was thunderous. Afterward, women lined up to talk to her, to share their own stories of performing perfection, of losing themselves, of finding their way back. One young woman, barely 25, gripped Tiwa's hand and said, "Thank you for showing us it's okay to be messy, to be real, to choose ourselves." "It's more than okay," Tiwa told her. "It's essential." That evening, Tiwa had dinner with Emeka at their favorite spot, the same casual place where they'd had their first date 18 months ago. They'd taken it slow, painfully slow. Some weeks just friends, some weeks more. No pressure, no performance, just two people learning each other honestly. And somewhere along the way, Tiwa had fallen in love. Not the desperate, all-consuming love she'd felt for Kola, the kind that demanded she transform herself to be worthy, but a quieter, steadier love, the kind that said, "I see all of you, including the messy parts, and I'm staying." "I have something to tell you," Emeka said over dinner, looking nervous. Tiwa's heart clenched. "Okay." "I got offered a job in London, head of engineering at a major firm. It's the opportunity of a lifetime." "That's amazing," Tiwa said, even as her heart cracked a little. "You have to take it." "That's the thing, I don't want to go without you." She stared at him. "Emeka, I'm not asking you to give up your life here. I'm not asking you to sacrifice your career or your family or anything you've built. I'm asking if you'd consider building something new with me. Maybe not London right away, but eventually. Maybe we do long distance for a while. Maybe we figure it out as we go. I just know," he took her hand, "I know I don't want to do life without you in it." Tiwa felt tears prick her eyes. A year ago, she would have been terrified. She would have seen this as another test of whether she was willing to change herself for a man. But Emeka wasn't asking her to change. He was asking her to grow with him, to build something together without either of them disappearing. "Can I think about it?" she asked. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere for 3 months." She smiled. "Then let's figure it out together. No sacrificing, no performing, just two people choosing each other honestly." "I wouldn't want it any other way." They clinked their glasses together, Chapman for her, Malta Guinness for him, and Tiwa felt a rush of gratitude for this imperfect, uncertain, beautiful life. Late that night, alone in her apartment, Tiwa opened Instagram. She'd been avoiding looking, but curiosity finally won. Kola had posted for the first time in months. It was a photo of him sitting alone in what looked like a therapist's office, the caption reading, "Working on becoming the man I should have been all along. Some lessons come too late, but growth is growth." Below it, hundreds of comments. Tiwa scrolled through them and stopped at one. From Funk, "Proud of you for doing the work. Real growth is never too late." Tiwa closed the app. She didn't comment, didn't like, didn't engage. Because their journeys were no longer hers to walk. She'd forgiven them not because they deserved it, but because holding on to anger was like drinking poison and expecting them to die. She'd released them, released the bitterness, released the need for them to suffer the way she'd suffered. But forgiveness didn't mean reconciliation. She'd built a new life, a real one. And it was too precious to risk by going backward. Maybe someday, years from now, she and Funk would sit down and rebuild their relationship. Maybe they'd become sisters again, different than before but still connected. Maybe not. Either way, Tiwa would be okay. Because she'd learned the most important lesson of all. The price of perfection was everything. But the reward of authenticity was yourself. And she was finally, beautifully, messily herself. If this story touched you, transformed you, made you think about your own life differently, subscribe right now, because every week I share stories like this, stories that hurt and heal, stories that break you open and put you back together stronger, stories about love and loss and becoming who you were always meant to be. This is more than just entertainment. This is a community of people choosing themselves, choosing growth, choosing authenticity over perfection. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join us. Because your story, the real one, the messy one, the beautiful one, matters too. Welcome home.